If there was ever someone who could rise from nothing to the height of power in under a decade, and do it during one of the most chaotic periods in French history, it could only be Napoleon Bonaparte. But what allowed a young man from Corsica, who spoke French with difficulty, to become one of Europe's powerful generals by his early 20s? Napoleon's meteoric military rise wasn't just a historical coincidence. It was a symphony of talent, timing, strategy, and an almost instinctive sense for warfare. In today's video, we'll dive deep into that decisive period, where a young officer, mocked for his island accent and low-born background, gradually gained the trust of the most powerful leaders, seized command, and began an unmatched path of conquest in the modern world. Let's begin in 1785. At just 16 years old, Napoleon Bonaparte graduated from the Royal Military School in Paris and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the artillery. Not a bad start for a boy from Corsica, a recently annexed island. But what set Napoleon apart was the extreme discipline he imposed on himself. While other young officers indulged in a comfortable lifestyle, Napoleon buried himself in books, studied tactics, and analyzed ancient military campaigns. He didn't just want to be an officer, he wanted to become a military genius. Yet ideals don't always align with reality. During his early service years, Napoleon was stationed in artillery units in Valence and Auxonne. He lived modestly, studied constantly, wrote books and letters, and sharpened his strategic mind. However, at that time, the army was still dominated by the nobility and family heritage, things Napoleon didn't have. Then the tide turned. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. The monarchy collapsed. The old aristocratic hierarchy within the army was abolished. Officers with true ability, regardless of background, suddenly had a chance to rise. Napoleon recognized this as a golden opportunity, and he seized it. Still, the early revolution years were chaotic. Loyalty was questioned, military units were fragmented by political factions, noble officers fled abroad, and campaigns failed from poor leadership. In that chaos, Napoleon stood out, not through brute force, but through sharp thinking, composure, and practical loyalty to the Republic. He wasn't an idealist, nor was he a royalist. He positioned himself carefully, at the right place, at the right time, and waited. His breakthrough came in 1793, in the city of Toulon. Royalist forces and the British Army were holding the strategic port city. The Republican Army launched a counterattack, but repeatedly failed due to lack of artillery leadership. Then Captain Napoleon submitted a bold, precise plan to retake the fort. The plan worked spectacularly. Toulon was liberated, the British withdrew, and within weeks, Napoleon was promoted to brigadier general. It was his first step up the ladder of power, and the moment his name began circulating among political elites. From here, things moved fast. In 1795, royalist forces rose up in Paris. The Republic ordered the army to intervene. Napoleon was tasked with defending the government. He deployed artillery and crushed the uprising with a strategy he later dubbed a whiff of grape shot, a brutal but effective use of cannon fire on the rioters. The rebellion was quashed within hours. The Republic survived, and Napoleon became its hero. He was then appointed commander of the Interior Army, and soon after, commander of the Army of Italy. But it wasn't a reward. It was a battlefield plagued with financial shortages, low morale, and disorder. Napoleon transformed it into a theater for his vision. He restructured the troops, ignited their spirit, and led battles on the front lines. Not from a tent, but on horseback under enemy fire. During the 1796 to 1797 Italian campaign, Napoleon achieved what many had deemed impossible, defeating the far larger Austrian army in battles like Lodi, Arcole, and Rivoli. Ultimately, Austria was forced to sign the Treaty of Campo Formio, withdrawing and recognizing French control of conquered lands. When Napoleon returned to Paris, he was no longer just a general. He was a legend, a warrior of the Republic, an irreplaceable military genius. From that point on, he didn't serve the army. He commanded it. So what enabled Napoleon's rapid ascent? First, the historical context. Without the French Revolution, he might have remained a low-ranking artillery officer. But it wasn't just timing. It was initiative. He didn't wait for opportunity. He created it. He redefined leadership, not just commanding with rank, but with vision, boldness, and inspiration. Napoleon knew that in war, victory came not just from firepower, but from confidence and initiative. He motivated his soldiers through direct speeches, shared spoils, and clear objectives. He earned respect not through title, but through talent. Every soldier under him knew their commander would never run from the front. Along the way, Napoleon also revealed political foresight. He wrote to the government, built connections with power players, but never came off as a sycophant. He always presented himself as a man with solutions, and history proved him right. But that early success also fueled greater ambitions. After the Italian campaign, Napoleon wasn't content being a general. He aimed for political power. The 1798 Egyptian campaign was part of that, meant to undermine British influence in the East and elevate Napoleon's image as a visionary leader. Though the Egypt campaign faced setbacks and achieved no lasting outcome, Napoleon's reputation remained intact. When he returned to France in 1799, the country was in turmoil. The Republic was fractured. Public trust had eroded. Napoleon appeared as the man who could restore order and glory. He orchestrated the coup of 18 Brumaire, overthrowing the government and becoming First Consul, officially a provisional leader, but in reality, the man in full control. In less than 15 years after graduating military school, Napoleon rose from obscurity to the supreme ruler of France, a journey that stunned the world, a rise not just through military ranks, but through hearts and minds, rewriting history in the process. No wonder they called him a phenomenon. Because Napoleon didn't just climb the ladder, he built it himself. What do you think of Napoleon's rise? Was it fate, luck, or a man who shaped his own destiny? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to explore more chapters in the dramatic life of Napoleon, from decisive battles to world-changing decisions, subscribe and turn on notifications. There's so much more coming in our Decoding Napoleon series. Thanks for watching to the end. See you in the next video.